Hey, you guys, welcome and welcome back. I wanted to talk to you guys about some things today that were kind of like on my mind when it comes to like the whole life thing that's going on right now. Okay, so I know it might be kind of weird. Let me try to. I don't know. I don't like the fact that the mic is covering my face, child. So we're gonna have to move it down a little bit. I hope y'all can still hear me. Let me see. Wait. Ooh, y'all probably can't hear me. Maybe it's better now. We'll see. But you guys like and subscribe to continue to catch the vibe. Okay, so listen, I wanted to talk to you guys about like my parents and the way I was raised and like how that has affected me in positive and negative ways, right? Because I was watching, you know, this whole documentary. Well, it wasn't like a full documentary, but it was kind of like a deep dive about SZA. And I didn't know like how SZA was raised and how she kind of came up in a situation where she really didn't have a lot of exposure to like mainstream media. And I always felt like as a child that I was missing out on so many things. So there's a few things, and in my ramblings, you guys, I tend to touch on things that are going on. So pick up what I'm throwing down. That's going to be up to you. But I was thinking about that after I watched that documentary about her, and I just watched the Super Bowl and saw her performing with Kendrick Lamar, and it just brought up so many things to my mind about like how I was raised, because it was a really kind of like sheltered environment. And I guess, you know, more than likely this is going to be a video about being sheltered as a youngin, because it's kind of hard when you grow up in a sheltered environment and your family really doesn't expose you or allow you to be exposed to a lot of things that other kids are exposed to, right? It can lead to bullying. It can lead to negativity from your peers. It can lead to like feelings of inadequacy, or sometimes feeling like, you know, ostracized from the crowd. And it's not always a great feeling. And I always felt weird, like growing up, even into adulthood. Sometimes, like, I have issues with self esteem and I question myself because I feel like sometimes my experience is so different from everyone else's, and it just goes back to the whole comparison thing. But like listening to SZA's story is so interesting, how she was able to cultivate this very unique sound in her music because she was exposed to certain things at a young age that other kids her age weren't really exposed to. And there's a certain like uniqueness. You tend to be very unique, and you tend to have skills and abilities and insights and gifts that other people sometimes don't have, you know? Um, and I had an issue with my parents for a long time because of this. Like, I guess there was a lot of resentment and animosity that I held towards adults in my life because I wanted them to be able to trust me, to allow me to have the things that other kids had, or to do the things that other kids did. And like, for example, I didn't get my ears pierced till I was like 13. And then, as I say, I wanted them to trust me. I got my ears pierced, right? And when I got them pierced, I ended up playing with them too much and taking the temporary earrings out, and my ear holes closed up. Long story short, I re-pierced my own ears with sewing needles. Fun fact you probably didn't know about me, I re-pierced my own ears with sewing needles, and I still have like, I was lucky. I got keloids, but they went down. Like, this ear doesn't really have any keloids, but it's like if I take the earrings out my ear and I touch the ear hole, I can still feel the swelling because I had like super big keloids because of that. And it was just crazy. Um, and I thought to myself, well, if they hadn't let me get my ears pierced when I was a baby, then I wouldn't have been able to take my temporary earrings out. It wouldn't have been an issue, but I digress, right? there are a lot of things that we could be upset about our parents about. There are a lot of things that we could be resentful about. You may have the type of childhood or experience in your childhood where your parents kind of exposed you to too much. And some of you may have the experience where your parents didn't really expose you to that much and you were very sheltered. But either way, there are consequences and repercussions that come from all different styles and types of parenting. And sometimes I think it benefits us to understand the individuality and uniqueness that comes with the way that we were raised. Sometimes, if you're sheltered and you only get to listen to certain types of music or you only get to watch certain TV shows or media, it gives you a different perspective on life. Like another example, I did not have like any type of iPod growing up. Okay, so, Walkmans were really big, right? Like handheld CD players. Take me back, okay? Handheld CD players that you would attach your headphones to were really big, right? But when everybody else had a CD player, I had a literal like tape player. And you could attach headphones to it, but it didn't play CDs, it played tapes. And it had a radio on it. So while all of my friends had the CD players and they were listening to all this new music, I was listening to maybe Destiny's Child, not TLC. I didn't listen to TLC until I got older, certain songs. And then, like, I don't know, like Destiny's Child was really the only tape that I remember listening to. And and then basically like, okay, when everybody else, let me see what else, like the ear piercing thing, and oh, when everybody else had cable and were watching SpongeBob and Cartoon Network and Disney Channel, guess what I was watching? PBS. Okay, I was watching PBS Kids. I was watching those cartoons. And I was also watching like old TV shows. Like I would watch Dark Shadows with my mom a lot. And I really like Dark Shadows. I would watch Perry Mason. And I would watch, what else? What else did we watch back in the day? Good Times. Definitely Good Times. And other shows like Three is Company, things like that. That was all I would watch. And I'm a 92 baby. So everybody was watching SpongeBob. And I remember this time where my mom went out to the club with her friend, and I got to stay over her friend's house with her kids. And they were a little bit older than me, but they minded their own business and pretty much saw me as a part of the family because I was always over there. Like I was like the little sister of everybody. And so basically, the one night that they went to the club, I got to stay over at my TT's house and I got to watch cable. I binged watched SpongeBob all night long. I stayed up till the crack of dawn, till literally they came home and I had to pretend like I was asleep. And they came home at the crack of dawn, child. They was out having a good time and I don't know what was going on, but I'm glad my mom got to have a good time because I was able to catch up on SpongeBob, right? But all the other kids had already watched it and I was just really sheltered in that way. There was definitely a lot of music that I wasn't able to listen to as a child because my mom was really careful about letting me hear certain things. And there were definitely places that I wasn't able to go, clothes that I wasn't able to wear. And then as things transitioned in my life and my mom passed away when I was about 13, I came to live with her brother, her older brother, and his wife. And pretty much it was kind of like the same situation. And just so you guys have context, I was raised by older people. And their way of raising me was very much so old fashioned, like 30s, 40s, 50s style of child rearing and raising kids. So it was not a situation where I was just able to just do things. Like I didn't get a cell phone until I was like 13. And I guess that to me was normal. I didn't see a problem with it. I got my kids a cell phone much younger just for safety reasons and, different things that they were doing like after school activities, sports, and it was just more convenient for me. But I didn't have a lot of the things that my counterparts had, and I was not exposed to a lot of the things that my counterparts were exposed to. Like my mom didn't let me drink coffee, and all the kids were drinking coffee. And it was just so many examples that I could use where I had either the outdated version of what everybody was doing because my mom was financially hindered in that way, or I just did not have the ability to do what they were doing. And it affected me for a really long time. And I guess I wanted to talk to you guys about this because there's a lot of situations where we will chastise ourselves or beat ourselves up about the things that we weren't able to do that are similar to other people's. And if you think about SZA's story, I think she was raised Muslim. And if I'm wrong, you can correct me in the comments, but I believe she was raised Muslim. And her values, because of her religion and her father's teachings and the teachings of the religion and what she believed in, were like the way she was raised and the things that she saw growing up were very different. And it provided her with the ability to channel another part of herself that was very much so unique to what her peers were doing at the time that she was making music. Now, there's another part of this that I want to talk about that's similar to her story because it was very inspiring. And it made me think about a lot of the ways that we tend to sell ourselves short. So, not only did she have that kind of like unique, sheltered identity as a child, similar to like a lot of us do, especially young Black girls, she also had like a family structure which didn't necessarily provide support for her dreams, right? She had a family structure and a family belief system that did not, you hear my cats running around, it did not facilitate support within her desired choices in life. And this can be a blessing and it can be a curse, and it depends on the way you look at it. But basically, like so many of us young women who grew up in the, I guess what is it, the 20th century? Child, I don't know. But if you grew up in the late 80s to the early 2000s, okay, there was definitely a way that things were done, and there was what you were going to do. Like, there was a way that things were done and the way that you were expected to do certain things. And I don't know if this is just me, but y'all can let me know your experience in the comments. But I know that when I was growing up, there was just a way that things were going to be done. And if I did not do it the way that they were supposed to be done, then I was basically like shadow banned out of my own family. And that made me really depressed for a long time because a lot of the things that creatively inspired me were things that my family didn't really support. And I still kind of feel sad about it because it's become very clear and prevalent to me that they aren't going to fully support what it is that I do. It's like when I'm doing well, they will slightly, okay, when I say slightly, I mean ever so slightly acknowledge that I'm doing well, but they won't fully acknowledge all the accomplishments I've made. And I don't think it's necessarily like strictly confined to like a time period. I feel like it's also just in terms of like the type of person you're dealing with, right? Because there were a lot of progressive parents that I experienced growing up, like friends' parents, that were more supportive and more progressive than my family or my parents. And it's kind of depressing because it's like you can turn to a friend's mom or dad, or you can turn to maybe like a leadership figure that you have maybe at a club or like I went to the YMCA, so I could turn to those people for support, and they've constantly like kept tabs on me. Even the lady who used to pick me up from school in elementary school at the YMCA, we're still friends on Facebook, and she keeps tabs, and when things happen and she sees it and I actually post it, she'll congratulate me and, just be very supportive, sending love and knowing that she's there for me means a lot, right? But my own family won't do that, right? Even when it's a situation where they've seen what I've been through, oftentimes your family is like one of the main ones. Even if they know what you're going through and they know what your dreams are, they'll still try to hold you back. And sometimes that's because you're being given an opportunity to fulfill your dreams, and you're taking the opportunity in a certain manner that they didn't have the confidence to do. So the second part of the whole situation was the fact that early on, when SZA was creating her music or trying to figure herself out, she didn't really have a lot of support from her family. And I was watching this video. The channel is called Volksgeist, I think. Volksgeist? I don't know, child, how to pronounce his name. But that was the channel, and he did the video, and there was a clip that he included where where her mom, sorry, her mom was basically saying that, basically it was a contrast between like SZA's thoughts and her mom's thoughts. And SZA was like, there were so many times where I didn't appreciate my parents and like what they gave to me, the fact that they were strict, or the values that they tried to instill within her, she didn't always appreciate it. And she was basically saying that she, was glad that they were the way that they were. She was glad that they raised her the way that they raised her, because if they hadn't, it may have been a lot worse for her in her life. She may have never figured it out. And at the same time, he added a statement from her mother, where her mother said that she was very glad that SZA didn't listen to her about pursuing her dreams, because she did not understand her perspective because of where she came from and the time that she was raised in. Meaning, like, her mom was basically expressing the sentiment that in her time, you just did what you had to do. You listened to your parents, you just followed their lead, and you did what you were supposed to do versus what your heart really was telling you to do. You never really followed your heart. And sometimes I think that it would be nice for us all to understand that contrast. Like, and I explain this whole thing because you are very unique as an individual, okay? If you're watching this video and you found this video, it means that your unique abilities and gifts and personality are what's going to set you apart from the crowd. And with this world that we currently live in, where everyone is being herded into this group of fleshy cattle that, basically stipulates that you have to all be the same and everything has to be beige and there's no individuality, you are meant to stand out. You are meant to be unique. You're meant to be different. And that is something that takes a really long time to accept, especially when you don't have that structural support system. Whether you've lost a parent or both parents, or whether they were never truly really involved in your life and they let you run wild, or whether they were super strict and never really allowed you to explore your personality for what it really is. Those are all characteristics and experiences that you're meant to use as you move forward. And recently, I definitely was a little bit sad because it's like I've realized this a while ago, but sometimes when you love people, it's difficult to let go of the idea of them that you want to believe, or the idea of the situation that you would like to have. It's difficult to let go of that vision or that desire, right? And I knew that my uncle was not necessarily very supportive of my goals and dreams, because there are certain things that I've done in my life that have pushed him away. And there's certain things that I've done in my life that were going directly against what he advised me to do, sometimes on purpose, just for that reason. So it's like, I'm not necessarily mad that he doesn't support me 100%, but I'm also like, I'm in a position mentally where I'm just kind of like fed up with always having to feel obligated to gain approval from him, because it's obvious to me that no matter what I do, it's never going to be enough to like gain the approval that I'm looking for, right? And maybe I've gained the approval that he feels like I deserve to have, but it doesn't feel enough for me. And I don't know, this video is all over the place and I don't want to make it too long, but I do feel like it's important to talk about, because sometimes when you're in a position, especially right now, there's going to come a time where you kind of have to pick a side with people. And it doesn't mean that you hate them or that you want any harm to come to them. It just more so means that, like, you can no longer live your life for their approval. You can no longer live your life for their satisfaction. And that's something that they have to accept and you have to accept. And I have fully accepted, because this, I'm going to tell you this. There was something that my uncle really wanted me to do. And I finally decided that I don't really care what he thinks. I don't really care if he's happy with my choices. I don't really care if what I'm doing is upsetting him, or I don't care how his feelings are in the situation. And it sounds cold, but it's not, because my feelings are the feelings that always seem to go on the back burner in recent times. Like, there's only so many times I'm going to apologize. There's only so many times that I'm going to grovel. There's only so many times that I'm going to be quiet and not speak my mind out of fear, or I guess out of fear of what he's going to say or do, or out of like folding, you know? Because sometimes you just go along to get along with people, especially in your family, especially parents and things like that. But there's only so many times I'm just going to go along to get along. I'm not going to keep putting what I need on the back burner because someone else is not willing to compromise, because I understand it's going to take compromise. But if I'm willing to do that and someone else is not, I'm no longer going to beat myself up that they're not, right? So it came to a point where this thing that I thought he was going to be happy about me doing, it was like a thing that he really wanted me to do, that I thought he was going to be happy that I'm finally doing it. And where it's like I envisioned this really positive reception for it, it's like there's still anger and there's still like resentment and there's still negativity behind everything that he says and does. And there's this really strong it's like there's really strong evidence that no matter what I do, it's never going to be good enough, and I'm never going to be accepted on that level by him. And it just kind of mirrors a lot of the relationships that I've had with men in my entire life period, where it's like no matter what I do, there's no level of even ground between me and these people. And it doesn't just have to be men. Some of it's women too, but a majority of it is men, where I've noticed that cycles that repeat in my life are coming from a place where there's never going to be this even ground between me and those people. And I've, you know, accepted a lot of it is because that was the way that it was intended to be. You know what I mean? Like, not necessarily because I did anything wrong. And it pushed me to see the beauty of the lessons that he taught me, because not just him, but also my mom and my grandmother, like the way that they raised me was not normal when it comes to the average kid growing up in the 90s. but it was necessary for the things that I feel like I'm meant to accomplish right now. And it also has provided me with a different perspective, being as I wasn't necessarily entranced by so many things going on. I was able to see the beauty of life through a more unique set of eyes. So, number one, I know this was a lot to take in, but number one, please, you guys, if there was something that you felt like you didn't get to do, or that you were sheltered from as a child, or if there's a way that you grew up, whether it was overexposure or underexposure, and things in your childhood went a certain way, try to look at those experiences from a more upgraded perspective to show you like the beauty of the situation. Try not to look at it from a completely negative place, and try to understand how you can use those experiences as an advantage moving forward with whatever it is that you may have to tackle now. Because your childhood is often always the key to solving problems as an adult. And I guess number two would be to try to forgive your parents and understand that just because you do something differently with your kids as a parent doesn't mean they're not going to hold that same resentment for you that you held for your parents. Like, and I think that's where the resentment kind of comes from with my uncle. It's like the way he was raised was even stricter than how he raised me. So it's like he constantly had this chip on his shoulder where he always felt like, well, I'm doing you a favor raising you this way. I'm doing you a favor providing these things for you. But they were things that I never asked for. Like, I didn't ask to be here. You know what I mean? So it's like approaching it as if you're doing me a favor is really arrogant. And as a parent, like, if you're, even if you're not a parent, but in order to forgive, which is number two, your parents, in order to forgive your parents, try to see it from their perspective and try to see it from a place where they maybe were also in that position. And it doesn't mean that you have to condone what they do or accept what they do as correct. It just means that it'll give you peace when it comes to the things that they can't seem to understand about you. Okay. And also try not to have that same attitude towards your kids. Like, there are ways that I feel kids should appreciate their parents, because you never know how hard it is to raise a child until you have to raise a child. So there needs to be some grace given there. But I also feel like on the adult side of situations, there needs to be grace given to the beauty of innocence and the beauty of childhood and the beauty of learning and being young. The vibration that comes from that, the vitality that comes from that, to where parents should work really hard to try to understand their kids and understand what it is that they really need to give them versus giving them something that they don't really need and then being upset when they tell you they didn't ask for it. And I guess number three is like, just be open, be really, really open to the possibilities of where your life can take you with those unique skills and with the ability to finally forgive your parents for things that they did. Because at the end of the day, it takes a lot of weight off of you, and it takes a lot of weight off of people around you, because you're not carrying that around. You're not, you know, projecting that negative energy out to everyone around you. And I guess that's what I wanted to say, because I didn't want this video to be longer than 30 minutes, but it was a lot that I had to say about that. And I just feel like if we can all tap into that, that will really show how unique and authentic and real and just raw that we all truly are. And I just want to see everybody thrive. So I hope this helped you. If you needed something, be sure to like and subscribe to continue to catch the vibe, you guys. And get in the comments, let me know what you think about this video. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.